What it do? So welcome to another one for Al Cuerpo Boxing, which means to the body. So let's get with it. Let's talk some boxing. Let's go ahead and talk about Teofimo Lopez. Latest news is that he has now, I guess you could say, officially declined the Haney fight. I mean, I don't know how many times you can decline or how we interpret prolonged negotiations, right? Maybe, hopefully, just these prolonged negotiation tactics, if you will, could be interpreted as, not agreeing to fight or the fight is off. But what I want to talk about more specifically, because I think fans, they don't really look at the stars options. I mean, maybe it's debatable if Teofimo Lopez is a star, and I want to marry in Benavidez into this topic because I think all of this revolves somewhat into the what I want to call the Benavidez effect, specifically with what's going on with the Saudi Arabian market, right? The current Saudi Arabian sports washing. That's what I mean by the Benavidez effect. And just quickly, because you have a lot of Benavidez fans, I'm kind of partial myself in that, and I've said it before, that does Benavidez reserve the right to have a halt for any type of Saudi Arabian mega fight, or what we would call Riyadh season, right? And so back to Teofimo Lopez, right? So let's go to the core basics of what fans are complaining about, right? The purses, the bags, the money involved between Lopez and Haney. And then second, maybe even a third, but the second one, the location of the fight. So far, it's rumored to be said that it would be in Riyadh season. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't be a rumor because I think that's what was disclosed to both parties and I guess some key journalists, right? They said that it would be for August 16th in Riyadh season. So two things, right? So far, the purses, the bags, and Riyadh season. And what I meant by the third is the aftermath of the Times Square, New York City event. Okay, so I guess we could say like three significant circumstances, the post aftermath that we should dive into. And remember, I mentioned Benavidez. So think about the Benavidez holdup for the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev, right? Just a quick recap. Bivol's WBC belt was stripped, or Bivol had let it go, just so that they could stop the drama between the Benavidez wanting the winner of the trilogy, or more specifically, just fighting Bivol directly, right? That he was mandated to fight. Bivol was mandated to fight Benavidez, right, for defense. But of course, industry, many fans, even Benavidez fans know, and everybody knew that everybody wanted the trilogy to be finalized. Particularly Turkey wanted it to be finalized. So that was a significant holdup, right? But check it out, guys. I guess we could dive into Benavidez already because I like Benavidez. I would say, and probably many of you would agree, but Benavidez is a bigger star than Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney. Forget so much about the resume and the accolades, but David Benavidez, is a more pivotal commodity for Riyadh season. And most fans would agree too. Benavidez is a fan-friendly fighter. He likes a lot of action. We like stoppages. So that's where David Benavidez is at, right? That's his star value right now. And so remember, though, that Benavidez was invited to the fight, the rematch between Bivol and Beterbiev. Okay, he was invited out there. I'm more than sure he was even accommodated the flights. You know, his managers, his lawyers. I believe his wife went as well. A nice crew were perked up to have a nice flight out to Saudi Arabia, all right? To hear what Turkey Al Sheikh, or I guess the Riyadh season outfit, was going to offer David, right? Keep in mind that David's legal, David's management, Samson Lukowitz, the PBC, obviously they have to have a game plan also. One, presented to David and a game plan or a strategy to counter offer whatever the Saudis are offering David, right? Because in theory, or what's been debated for years, is how free is a PBC fighter, right? We really don't know the details of David Benavidez' contract. Of course, we have a loyalty theme going on, but I'm more than sure that David is free to go where he wants to go. And so the PBC have to do their best to keep David in-house, right? Because they don't know the nature of Saudi Arabia. PBC reserves the right of perhaps Riyadh fighters or Matchroom fighters, Queensberry fighters might have a bias, right? The judges might have a bias for that, so they have a right to have insecurity. Or the PBC might have a right to feel insecure should David be enticed with the Saudi deals, with the Saudi money, more specifically, right? So remember again, guys, David was invited out there. He had a meeting with Turkey, but he dipped out on the main event. The main event was the rematch between Bivol and Beterbiev. I think he even saw the Callum Smith fight, because the Callum Smith fight, right, versus Bacoli, if I'm not mistaken. No, Buatsi, sorry. I believe he was there to see that fight, if I'm not mistaken. But he dipped out, guys. And we have to wonder why, right? Now, for the objective point of view, the fans might say, hey, man, this is Saudi money. Why would David, why would he sabotage a nice Saudi bag purse? Well, the reality is we don't know what that bag is, right? Right now we know that big bags are being given to accomplished stars, right? That be Tyson Fury. I mean, I should mention Canelo Alvarez first and foremost, but Tyson Fury, Canelo, Usyk, Joshua, now Terrence Crawford, right? The reported rumor between Canelo versus Crawford is that it's going to be a 75 or 80 million bag going to Crawford, and Canelo will make about 150 million. Sounds about right, right? That's where the Saudis are going. You know, things are elevating, and so far, maybe the Saudis are happy. Maybe not so happy about the Times Square event, but what do they care? I mean, for the archives and in boxing history, the Saudis conquered Times Square by doing that boxing event. So that's on tape. That's for future generations to watch. Future generations aren't going to care about pay-per-view and all that kind of crap. They don't care about that stuff. That's long gone. At the end of the day, though, Teofimo Lopez showed up in Times Square, right? So keep in mind that's Teofimo's state of mind. What are Teofimo's options right here forward? So back to the contracts, all right? And let's just finish off with David Benavidez. Maybe David Benavidez, he had been told, look, this is being Turkey, right? Hey, look, David, thank you for coming out here. You know, I'm really interested in working with you. I don't know your deals with the PBC and Al Heyman, but the thing is, I have to finalize this trilogy between Bivol and Beterbiev. I've got to do that. You know, this is Turkey speaking to David. And David himself has acknowledged that beforehand. He talked about it. You know, he literally said, I might be paraphrasing, but who am I to interfere with the trilogy, right? And so therefore there's even other options. Maybe Callum Smith. Maybe Callum Smith was presented. Callum Smith was also fighting that night. Maybe Turkey had mentioned, look, David, I can't get you the Bivol fight soon, but I'll guarantee you the fight after the trilogy is finalized, or the winner of the trilogy. But you got to hold out a bit. But check it out. I got you Alcatraz, David. What about that? I can give you. We're planning on doing a fight in Alcatraz, and you and Callum Smith, should Callum Smith win tonight, you can get that fight. Or let's say it would have been the winner of that fight, right? Could have been Buatsi versus David Benavidez. So that's where we are right now. So we're talking about options in the contracts, right? We don't know what David would have made had he waited, had he signed a particular contract with the Saudis, right? Because obviously the Saudis want David to wait a bit, vice versa, maybe, I don't know. But as far as Teofimo Lopez now, again, all we know is about we don't really know, I don't know, but they're saying that Teofimo Lopez agreed. Now think about this, guys. Let's think about this logically and common sense, all right? With common sense. Teofimo Lopez is given a contract for the Devin Haney fight, all right? August 16th, a said purse is mentioned in the contract, and it's got to be in Riyadh season, all right? Those are the three main kickers right now in the contract. But guys, there are a lot of other details in the contracts. Details that maybe Teofimo Lopez sides don't want to disclose or admit to, acknowledge, because they don't want that to be a recurring theme, in the boxing wave of news. Maybe Devin Haney's okay with it, right? What am I alluding to, guys? One possibility might be the type of drug testing involved in Saudi Arabia. It's possible, right? Maybe not so much of a big deal as far as theory, but it's possible, guys. There might be something in the contracts about that. All right, and maybe Lopez just doesn't agree to that. It could be something else. It could be maybe does Lopez reserve the right to have second thoughts that he prefers maybe a New York-based event or something neutral, somewhere American zone in which he can benefit from actual fans in the stadium, right? Or at the venue. Does Teofimo Lopez deserve that? From what I remember, right? Teofimo versus Lomachenko was in the bubble, right? Back in the day. So Teofimo Lopez already did his part with that. And I believe Devin Haney did as well. Maybe Lopez doesn't want that type of ambiance again. More so because it would be a Saudi Arabian audience. I don't know how what exactly that is, but or maybe yeah, the crowd that came to the Canelo Alvarez event, all right, versus Skull. It might be, guys, in the contract, because we don't know. Maybe in the contract they want to. Maybe this is what they offered to Teofimo and Haney. They said, "All right, you can splurge on the pay-per-view in who knows what percentage, but by doing that, you guys now have to do the time in which Canelo Alvarez did with William Skull, which means that Teofimo and Devin Haney, they gotta agree to fight at 6 a.m. in Saudi Arabia. Did you guys think about that? Now, why wouldn't that be disclosed? Well, first of all, both sides would have to agree to that, right? The Haneys don't know what the holdup is. For example, if Lopez said, nah, we like the contract, but there's some things that we don't like. There's some details, such as we're not down to fight at 6 a.m. And therefore, but maybe Haney is. So the Haneys could use that against Lopez and say, hey, man, if you're a star, if you're a prize fighter, what does it matter? Canelo Alvarez did it. All the fighters that recently fought on Canelo's card, they did it. We're down to do it. Why can't Lopez do it? Like, think about Bill Haney saying one little detail like that maybe Lopez could use. Me as a fan, I didn't like the time zoning that Canelo had to do. As a matter of fact, I even said it before. I felt that maybe that was maybe some of the reason why the main event looked sluggish. Guys, Skull and Canelo had to wake up early, man. Canelo woke up very early because I saw him in the dressing rooms for his fighters. Who knows? If he's 6 a.m., probably Canelo woke up around at the latest 3 a.m. because I did see him in the room with the Cuban guy. What's his name? Marco Verde, Munguia, of course. So Canelo was already up beforehand. Who knows what his sleep was the day before in those times. But keep in mind, I thought that fighting at 6 a.m. is a bad idea. Nobody in boxing history has ever done that except for Canelo and Skull. Nobody was doing that, guys. We talked about it before in other live streams. Oh well, boxers are early risers. They can hit the grind, guys. It's a whole different circumstance. First of all, boxers ain't waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning. If anything, maybe a 4 or 5 a.m. run. 5 a.m. run sounds about good, you know. But guys, 2 or 3 a.m. wake like nah. Fighting at 6 a.m. in Riyadh was a bad idea. So again, who knows if that's in the contracts in Lopez's side. Lopez might not want to disclose that as an issue because he doesn't want to make it a big deal to fans. Why? Because Canelo Alvarez did it. Now keep in mind that here's the kicker. The only reason why we're getting the Crawford fight is because Canelo agreed to fight Skull. That's the only way they could. That's the only way they could sell the fight, right? For undisputed, for Canelo to defend all the belts. So Canelo, the kicker is for Canelo to get his $80 million guarantee from what was being said for the Skull fight. In order to do that, and for the Saudis and Ring Mag or whoever, the Zone Network, they wanted to see what numbers Canelo could do. Prime time Cali, right? Cali time, as most fights in Vegas. Canelo had to agree to do a 6 a.m. fight in Saudi Arabia to compensate for the Vegas time. That's what Canelo had to agree to, guys, to get that 80 million, right? And then two, Canelo had to agree to fight William Skull. Guys, the PBC and Canelo, they never wanted to fight Skull. That was the whole reason why Canelo was stripped that belt or vacated the belt. PBC couldn't sell Canelo versus Skull. Back then, even fans were making fun of the idea, like, who the hell is Skull? Everybody in the scene was saying who was Skull. I believe even Canelo himself. They couldn't sell that fight. And PBC didn't want to give Canelo that 35 million guarantee for a William Skull. That's what it was. So how did the PBC have to give Canelo something for that guarantee at least, right? To justify that guarantee? Okay, well, let's do Berlanga. Mexico versus Puerto Rico. That's the reason why we got Berlanga. Particularly because it was a PBC event. That's the best that PBC could do. They couldn't give Canelo his guarantee for a Benavidez fight. If so, that Canelo would have been scrutinized. But there are no reports or journalists saying, nah, man, the money was definitely there in escrow or whatever. It wasn't there, guys. PBC would have had to have gambled and hoped for a good pay-per-view for that. So that was out of the way, right? So they went with Berlanga. So what am I getting about the whole Benavidez effect? Not so much Canelo right now, but how come Benavidez gets a pass, right? And I know a lot of guys and a lot of content creators are going to fumble with this idea because a lot of them have defended Benavidez and that are also Teofimo fans, right? So in theory, they also, if you are defending Benavidez's moves, if you're defending the PBC and Benavidez's moves to get that WBC belt and not wait for the trilogy, right? Or, yeah, to not agree to Turkey's offerings, then automatically you would be siding with Teofimo Lopez, right? There are a lot of circumstances and variables to defend this idea. But again, guys, the Benavidez effect. Lopez right now was going against Turkey, said some things on the social media trends, eventually had to apologize, right? What's the difference between Benavidez? Benavidez probably originally said some mild, low-key remarks against the Saudis, but at the same time, respecting the Saudis, respecting Turkey, right? But not saying anything, I guess, offensive like Teofimo has. And obviously, he hasn't had to apologize for his side. One could say, well, maybe Benavidez should apologize for wasting Turkey's time in flying out to Saudis, right? Maybe. David deserves the right to do what he wants to do, right? Some fans of Benavidez are saying by him not submitting to all the Saudi demands that it's okay, right? Because that Benavidez and the PBC have a right to flex Turkey, right? Again, the Benavidez effect, Teofimo Lopez, okay? Does Teofimo Lopez reserve the right to dip out on the Haney fight? Benavidez is doing it, right? Or the PBC are doing it. I don't know how you want to interpret it. What do I mean by this, guys? Lopez could fight Hitchinson, right? The Zone with Matchroom. He can also unify with Puello, right? There are fights at 140 in which Lopez can do and which is acceptable. It's fine. But at the end of the day, guys, Teofimo Lopez is the guy at 140. He's the ring belt champion, along with that WBO. But that's where he is. Okay? So he's a champion. He has a belt. He has value. Lopez is okay. He's fine. I can see a lot of fans are desperate. They don't know what to do. You know why fans are kind of desperate as of late? You know why? Because of Times Square. Why, guys? Because the Garcia and Haney rematch is done. It's not going to happen, or at least not going to happen anytime soon. A lot of fans are trying to sink that in. They're trying to absorb that. Like, damn, what do we do next? Where do we gossip now? And then now they're picking on Teofimo Lopez. Guys, Lopez doesn't need Devin Haney. The Haney side, they might say, nah, Lopez needs to see us, right? Well, right now, the Haneys don't even have a strap. They're in limbo between 140 and 147. As a matter of fact, Bill Haney had disclosed that they wanted to fight Teofimo at 147. Teofimo said, no, we'll do 145. Keep in mind, guys, that in Bill Haney's hit list, I don't even know if it's Devin Haney's hit list, but Bill Haney's hit list, at least what he put out. Guess what, guys? Boots Ennis is in that hit list, right? 147 guys. Mario Barrios is on that hit list. Who else? Brian Orman Jr. is on that hit list. Ryan Garcia, if I recall, is at the end of that at the end of that list. All right, guys, the Haneys are acknowledging a lot of guys on their hit list. So even if they don't get the Lopez fight, guess what, guys? They can go and try and get another fight as hard as they're trying to push now, right? The Haneys know they're going to get a good bag because the Saudis involved, right? So again, the Benavidez effect. Fans will say, and I say all the time, David, man, just go with the Saudis, go and get that bag, right? Everybody knows I've been saying that for the longest. Just go and get that bag because Benavidez, in theory, he is somewhat of a favorite in many matchmaking scenarios. I have David beating Badu Jack. Why is that important and fans make fun of me? I don't know. Maybe because they're afraid of David to go to cruiserweight. By the way, I think David would be successful at cruiserweight. The guy to beat at cruiserweight, the boogeyman there is Jao Pataya. That's a hard fight. But guess what, guys? David Benavidez is calling out Zurdo Ramirez. Everybody knows this. The father's been calling him out. They've been calling him out almost close to a year. They've been calling out Zurdo Ramirez, and that fight has been brewing. In theory, when we saw the infamous picture with Benavidez and Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, right? That's good, guys. That's a good fight. Mexico versus Mexico. Or Mexican America, Mexico America versus Mexico, right? Meaning Benavidez and Zurdo Ramirez. Again, guys, come on. You know the business of boxing. What's better, or what's better money for David Benavidez? To go directly and fight for Zurdo's belts? He would be the challenger, right? Or beating Badu Jack, getting accolade from beating Badu Jack, and boom, now you're another WBC champion at cruiserweight, and you could unify for 3 belts. Unifying 3 belts with Zurdo Ramirez, right? And making a bigger bag. Guys, understand that unification fights is bigger than just being a regular challenger to Zurdo. So that's why I was optimistic. If Team Benavidez is already mentioning Zurdo, why not mention Badu Jack, man? Go and get Badu Jack's belt. Weird things are going on right now. Now, Badu Jack has to do a rematch with the guy he just fought, the Armenian Makelson or whatever. Why? Why do we need that fight again? Think about that right now. I'll do another video on that in the future, but I'm trying to think what benefit does Suleiman get out of that? Maybe who knows? Maybe some teams are listening to what I'm saying. Maybe like another round of fights between Benavidez and Badu Jack, and then maybe after that they can acclimate to cruiserweight. Because we really don't know the 175 landscape. It's now said that Bivol might take a fight, before the trilogy happens. Why is that? Maybe Beterbiev needs more time to recover. Maybe that rematch, they went into it too soon. Because right now, Bivol had said possibly December, November for the trilogy to finalize. Guys, that's some time away. Right? The last fight was in March, I believe. So March, December, that's some time away. I guess objectively speaking, maybe that's good. It's more time for both fighters to heal, meaning Bivol and Beterbiev, right? Hopefully we could get a Benavidez versus Callum Smith. At this point, I don't care who Benavidez fights as long as he's active. I've been shooting for the Benavidez versus Hot Rod fight. It's a good fight for David. Okay? But back to Teofimo Lopez, guys. Teofimo Lopez has options. I'm going to say this, guys. For the Lopez haters, it's not a tragedy if the Haney fight doesn't happen next. I know the Haney fans or the Haney fanatics are just biting their nails because they need a fight, right? Or perhaps for diehard Haney fans, they want to justify a big bag in which would be Lopez, right? Especially the Haneys, especially Bill Haney. Of course, they want Lopez. A nice bag is presented on both parties. But again, guys, the contracts, the future outlook, the future benefits for either fighters. Lopez doesn't need Haney. Lopez doesn't need the Haneys to troll a fight that it must happen. They don't need it, guys. It can happen. It can still happen. But fans are desperate because that's the fight they want next. Fans like to say, well, oh, Lopez is scared of Haney. Okay, you want to troll that idea. Maybe the Haneys are scared that they might lose in their next fight. That's not Lopez. Maybe the Haneys are not disclosing who their alternate fight might be, and that fans might not like that, right? Who knows who's involved with that alternate matchmaking, right? Same thing can be said towards Lopez. Maybe the Haneys don't want Lopez to lose in his next fight against someone else, right? Or maybe the Haneys don't want Lopez to succeed with his own path because Lopez could unify with Hitchinson and let's say Puello, right? And or Matias, right? The winner of that fight. Guys, Teofimo Lopez has options. Let's not cry over it. It's not the end of the world. Okay, 2025, it'll pass soon. Damn, time goes fast, right? But guys, don't you see the parallel, the Benavidez effect? Shout out to David. The Benavidez effect right now. The way the PBC and Benavidez are flexing the Saudis with their own options, right? I was begging for David to be on the Pacquiao card or for Tank to be on the Pacquiao card, or rather, that would have been good business for either of those two guys. Steal some of that Pacquiao shine, and it would also help Pac's pay-per-view. But in essence, the pay-per-view success helps anybody involved with that event, right? Amazon Prime will be happy, would be happy. So what's next for Teofimo Lopez? What's next for David Benavidez? Hopefully I made my message uh, come across rather strong, right? If you're a Benavidez fan, in theory, you would be defending Teofimo Lopez. Why? Because it's kind of stateside versus the Saudis, right? Stateside versus the Saudis. Lopez agreed to the bat. That's the thing. Like, we like to use the word agree to or signed to. Guys, Lopez's team, his handlers, including Top Rank, they have a right to look at the contract, the details. These other details haven't been disclosed, guys, and probably there's a reason why it's not being disclosed. In particular, one side that's more preferential to the Saudis might agree to all the terms, right? But it's not just about the bag. Again, there might be a stipulation in the contract that they have to fight at 6 a.m. Maybe Bill Haney hasn't disclosed something like that just yet. Okay? That's one detail. Maybe particular drug testing scenarios are being involved in the Lopez fight. Maybe certain ramifications or a penalty if something happens, and so forth and so forth in the contracts. But both sides aren't disclosing it just yet. All we know so far is that they've been offered pay grades, right? Their purses have been disclosed to either side. Bill Haney said he doesn't know what TEO's receiving. Okay, we know one side is agreeing to Riyadh season, but that's another thing, guys. Is that does Teofimo Lopez reserve the right to second guess or second think, rethink that maybe he wants to show up for his fans, right? Lopez really didn't benefit from a fan base in Times Square, right? Closed circuit, if you will. Haney didn't benefit either, closed circuit. Both sides have different, how would you say, different standards, different preferences. It seems like the Haneys are kind of, they're good with anything, right? That doesn't translate like the Haneys are the guys. No, not at all. There's a lot of theory going on. There's a lot of other details. I don't want to prolong this video in that, but let's just think about that, okay, guys. I want you to think about the circumstances and the options that David Benavidez has right now, and right now, what he had to endure dealing with the Saudis, and so therefore, can all that carry on over to Teofimo Lopez, right? Does Teofimo Lopez get benefit of doubt from other details that we don't know or details that we do know? Does he get benefit of doubt the way David Benavidez' fans have totally, given him a pass for any situation? I'm down with hardball negotiations. That's cool. I mean, it's nothing new in boxing. Does Teofimo Lopez deserve that right? I think so. I think so. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. But I'll catch you guys on another one for Al Cuerpo Boxing, which means to the body. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.